our mission as an organization is to make the industrial world a better place and a safer place through actionable artificial intelligence. In this ecosystem, we have technology, we have professors, we have industrial specialists. But our X factor is students who don't know that something can't be done. There are many levers in the ecosystem that can fuel that initiative.
Hi, this is Amrut. We are at IIT Madras, my alma mater, and India's top university for people who like to build. We are here to meet some builders, ask them, what are you building? What does it take to build? And what makes IIT Madras the best place to build? Hello and welcome to the Best Place to Build podcast. This is season 2. We are recording at the Center for Innovation in IIT Madras. Today with me is Daniel from Detect Technologies. Daniel, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, Amrut.
Detect is one of the hottest IITM startups of the last decade. You've raised more than 40 million and you have operations across the world. And you're a quiet startup, not too much noise. We don't see a lot of press releases. So maybe you can start by telling us what does Detect do and what is your presence worldwide?
Firstly, thank you for having me. Second, it's always good to give an introduction of Detect, right? So I would say today, the company has gone through several evolutions in the time that we've existed. But today, our mission as an organization is to make sure or make the industrial world a better place and a safer place through actionable artificial intelligence, right? Actionable being the key word. We do this through a various set of technologies and means, right? But the overall summary of what we do is we built a central AI layer that can take in information which can be visual from your cameras, time series data from sensors, as well as simple data that's scribbled on notes and put into ERPs, right? And be able to process that for large industrial plants as well as smaller fabrication yards as well, and put actionable information right in front of the front line so that they can act on, let's say, something that is a life-saving risk that's happening at the facility, and even post the required statistics to management so that you understand what's the culture of your company, how do I improve the efficiency of my company, the safety of my company at scale, at an enterprise level. So we touch people both at the front line all the way to the CXOs and the executives of these organizations through very verticalized AI interventions from our end.
Hold on. That was a lot. Let me take it in.
Sure.
So you said industrial AI in for safety and efficiency.
Yes.
So let me try and understand it in my way as best I can. I started my career in a factory. We used to produce detergent liquid. So there are multiple plants inside a factory. There are machines there. There are workers going from here to there. We had about 500 workers. So in a plant like that, the kind of safety issues I would be thinking about is maybe somebody falls down and then equipment falls on them, or a worker accidentally touches a machine at where it's hot or where it's moving and they sort of hurt themselves at a minor level, but at a major level maybe lose a finger or fall down, have a fracture. There were no life-threatening kind of situations in our factory. I'm sure in bigger factories somebody could die for it. So in a factory like this, what would Detect end up doing?
Thank you. You asked a great question. So in any factory, even as small as, you said 500 people in your factory, right? There are factories with even just 30, 40 people, all the way to factories that have thousands of people at their site. There are actually a set of, over time, iteratively, we as human civilization have actually identified what are the risks and the scenarios that would lead to someone losing their finger, or worst case, fatality. Just a sad but interesting statistic is, in the frontline workforce today, there are close to about 6,000 people or 6,000 fatalities that happen on a daily basis.
Who publishes that statistic?
Generally, Gartner, McKinsey, consultants. This is referenced
6,000 fatalities in factories daily across the world.
Across the world.
For
Across the
maybe
world.
10 million workforce or maybe 100 million workforce. I don't know what is the workforce.
The workforce would be larger than 100 mil, actually. But effectively, there's close to about 2 million deaths a year across all industries, right? Every single industrial segment, from warehousing, ports, fabrication, all the way to the biggest oil and gas. Construction as well. Both real estate as well as industrial constructions.
Right.
So now, why does this happen? Is because there are many leading indicators that there's a body called OSHA that has set out all of these rules over time on what scenarios have resulted in these risks, injuries, and fatalities, right? But it is close to impossible to actually track all of it. Today, what is the solution that every industry follows across the world is you have a safety team in a workforce of a few hundred people. It's about anywhere between 3 to 20 people, right?
Sure.
Within the site that walk around the facility, some facility like this, scan for what they see as risks, note it down as per the OSHA rules, and put it out on an ERP. Unfortunately, most of the incidents happen when they're actually not around or not in that specific portion of the facility.
Yeah.
Right? So you need something that is looking out for these risks 24/7, 365.
Sure. Plus, I also want to say that suppose the team recognizes a risk, there's a cost associated to solve the risk.
Yes.
And especially in a very cost competitive industry, we hear about these Chinese factories which are like sweatshops and things like that. The management may simply not want to invest in that extra amount of money to solve that.
Exactly. So you need something, fair point. You need something cost effective, something that works at scale and is able to analyze information without getting tired, and put the right kind of interventions in front of the manager of that facility, as well as the executives to tell them what is happening in that facility, right? That's what Detect does. Detect plugs into, let's say in a facility like this, I think 2 or 3 of these cameras can cover the whole facility.
It's a great point. We are sitting in a lab.
Yes.
And there's welding happens sometimes here, and then they do gas cutting. They do vacuum pump operation.
Yeah.
All of these operations have some risk associated with it. And maybe for the general public, we have all seen construction sites.
Yes.
Right? And we can see that there's a beam and there is a girder being moved, or there's a hole that's been dug which is 6 feet long, and something can happen.
Exactly.
And obviously industries are not so open and so risky, but still there is always a slight risk of something. So your technology is plugging into the cameras that's looking in.
Yes.
And as per OSHA rules, recognizing those scenarios where something is risky. Is that right?
Exactly. I'll give you an example, right? Something that is also relatable. Ports. There's crane operations, cranes that take containers from ships into land, into lorries, right? The biggest risk over there in any of these ports is if the structure is not held properly. Sometimes these containers, when there are people walking under those containers, the containers actually fall on those individuals. Big risk, right? And the biggest contributor of deaths in that sector. So in those cases, not only does Detect build the AI to detect whether people are under those loads, but also integrate back to the machinery to tell the machinery it's detecting a person under that load, the machine needs to stop, right? For safe operation, an alarm needs to go so that the person goes back into safety. So it's not just detection, but also intervention into the real world, right? That Detect does. And we've saved, or at least the technology with the information put at the right time has saved multiple or prevented multiple incidents as well as fatalities across the world.
That's amazing. I'm so curious about how you got into this business. But before that, just to complete this, your technology plugs into AI. You said camera feeds, but you also said some other feeds.
Sensors.
So these are sensors like?
I'll give you a few examples. So large complex industries like oil and gas have a multitude of data sources giving lots of information. The last couple of decades, the industry has spent on investing in infrastructure, right? So it can be things like gas sensors. It can be pressure sensors to detect pressure changes within the process fluids that are being sent across the facility. And also, there are also ultrasonic sensors. So there are multiple use cases in each of them. I'll give you one example of a technology that was invented here in IIT Madras, right? So it's a technology called GUMPS. where effectively we have the patent for the first sensor in the world that could generate signals across a pipe at high temperatures. Why is that important, right? Just to give you an example, have you done an ultrasound before? I'm sure you have. We needed to do it before getting into IoT.
I'm a. Do you know what's a stone maker?
No.
A stone maker is a word used by urologists to people who make a lot of kidney stones.
Can you start? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a stone maker. I do multiple ultrasounds for kidney stones.
You should hydrate then in that case. No, but so basically ultrasound, he would have applied a gel on you to do that ultrasound. That's because for the signal to flow, there should be no mismatch of what's called impedance, right? For the signal to flow from the sensor into your body. That's called gel coupled. The problem is the moment you have a system that's at a higher temperature, let's say above 100 degrees Celsius, those gels are not stable anymore, right? So effectively we have a patent for a technology that is air coupled and uses a different piece of technology called magnetostriction. Without getting too much into the technicalities, we can just put the sensor around the pipe and through the air just generate signals. Why is this advantageous? It works at high temperatures. Today, most of your hazardous gases, liquids like crude oil, naphtha, and the like in very complex industries work at temperatures above 200 degrees Celsius, right? So we actually have a sensor that can generate these signals, and you need a sophisticated AI system to be able to tell you what those signals mean, because all you see are sinusoidal waves, right? So to analyze and tell you, okay, from these signals, there are defects occurring in certain pieces of the pipe. In about 6 months of time, pipe failure is going to happen. So you need to plan a maintenance activity, right? And this can be done across not just pipes. Using thermal data, you can also track if there are gas leakages, if there is corrosion happening in high temperature systems. So there's a multitude of data sources where you can pull useful information from to predict both efficiency issues as well as safety and shutdown of facility related issues.
Sure. So it's preventive maintenance.
Yes.
Preventive care.
Yes, precisely.
I have a question here. So I can understand this part, but just dialing back to the vision part, it's an AI system, so it requires a lot of training data.
Yes.
How do you get training data for hazards? Because obviously there's something you want to avoid, right? So
That's actually a great question, which bleeds into what is really the moat of detect, right? Why detect? And why hasn't someone else done this? The most important thing is the amount of data that you train this system on. Synthetic data didn't exist as a concept back then when you started, I would say 2015, 2016. But even now, it's always better to train a system on real data as opposed to synthetic data, right? For multiple reasons. It's not there yet to completely replicate the real world, while it might eventually get there. So when we started this, or going back to the origins of Detect, I told you we were working on that sensor, right? And as a result, I met my co-founder, Tarun Mishra, who was working in one of the industrial facilities at that time. He's an alumnus from IIT Madras. I was visiting as a student. So when we were deploying this piece of technology, we were exposed to multiple different hazards and risks at the site, right? And there were incidents happening on a regular basis across these facilities. So for us, the question became, why can't you build a system to detect these risky scenarios? And Google Photos was popular at that time. Hyperverge was working on vision tech at that time as well for the consumer market segment at that time, right? So we were saying, okay, industrial market space, this can be of value. We started building simple rule-based models, things that could detect whether you're wearing a helmet or not in lab environment.
fair enough. At the time, people were working on problems like, is this a beach?
Yes.
Is this an apple? Is this a cat or a dog?
Exactly. So we got into a scenario where we had to go to the industrial sites and tell them, look, we can detect helmet-related risks. We can detect other risks.
This is whether the person is wearing a hard hat or not wearing a hard hat.
Not wearing a hard hat. A simple
This is
rule.
compliance
Yes.
related.
Right? Harness. We could do harness as well. But we said, if you want us to detect something more complex, right, which is there is a hot work happening or a welding happening in a certain area that is in proximity to a gaseous environment, right? And the sparks that are flying could fall under where certain gas-related activities are happening as well. So these are multiple probabilistic models that you have to run in parallel. You want us to do that? Then we need access to information and access to data, right? So I would say our first client partners
So your
across the Indian
key
ecosystem.
clients would have helped you
Yes.
gather this.
Yes.
And you would have to had gather data for all the OSHA requirements.
Precisely.
Can you give us a few OSHA requirements so that we just have a flavor for it?
Sure. I can tell you a bunch of high-level categories, right? There's PPE, which I spoke about, comes under object detection, simple to detect.
This
right?
is whether you're wearing a mask, whether you're wearing a hard hat, whether you're wearing a harness.
Precisely,
Yeah.
right? Then you get into a little more complex, let's say line of fire, which is a high risk, right? Which is people walking under suspended loads, right? Whether it is, I spoke about the container example, but there are various equipments that crane activities go through. Third, vehicle safety related risks, right? Are you overspeeding? Is the equipment you put on the vehicle, I'm sure we've seen a bunch of lorries on the road with stuff that is just bulging out of the lorries, right? A lot of those are actually not OSHA compliant because it can lead to that falling onto the traffic behind. So that's another example. Then you have work at height. That is people that are climbing structures and performing activities without operating on harnesses. There are multiple stories of these people actually falling down and either leading to injury or death.
Today, our workplace is very well regulated.
Yes.
And of course, more so because of technologies like yours. But we've all seen these pictures from like, skyscrapers from 100 years back where they're like people walking on a beam in 20 floors height. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. You'd be surprised, Amrut. There are scenarios where, I kid you not, there are scenarios where there could be 2 columns, 60 meters height, right? Way bigger than this building. And you would find people extremely confident on the scaffolding of one, trying to, instead of coming down and then climbing up this second structure, trying to jump from one structure to the other. See, it happens.
Just to clarify, this is OSHA non-compliant.
Absolutely.
The worker can lose his life,
Yes.
can lose his job, obviously, and the supervisor can lose his job,
Yes.
and the company can get fined if it's caught.
Precisely. And the liabilities are high. And second, on top of that is just the morale of the site, right? Like when you have a peer go through a major life-changing event.
The factory changes.
The fact, yes.
Okay, so that's a lot. let's come back to this in a bit. You started your journey as a student here.
Yes.
Which years were you here? What course were you doing?
So I'm a mechanical engineer. I did the dual degree mechanical engineering program with the masters in intelligent manufacturing.
No, that was my course too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I actually didn't know that. No, fantastic. So IM was our specialization. I came in 2012.
Okay.
So I was here from 2012 to 2017. That was my overall course.
You know who else was in IM? Devanshu from Involved and
Really?
Sorinas, yeah.
Oh, okay. Devanshu was in IM?
Yeah.
I didn't know that as well, and I mentored the guy through the startup journey at least.
So you were a student and the work that you do is very industrial. How is it that you came to this? I'm also curious, what did you do as a student to be exposed to something like that? Did you work anywhere else in the middle?
No, I didn't.
So
This is my first gig.
Okay. So you were a student, I think 2011, right?
Yeah.
And so how, 2012. So how did you enter this field? What did you do as a student to be exposed to this?
Yeah, I'll take you through, I don't know how much time you got, but
Lots.
lots. Okay. So I'll take you through the story, right? Since my first time did, my dream, so my father's from IIT Madras.
Okay.
So he went to Mandakini hostel, very smart man, brought me to campus and he knew I loved animals. And I was like, Daddy, there's monkeys here, there's deer and whatever that other thing is, which was the black buck. Yeah, so I want to get into this campus. And he's like, are you sure? It's the most difficult campus in the world to get into. I said, then that gives me more reason to get in. So I got in thinking, okay, my end goal is to get into IIT in life, right? I got in my first year. And then I saw there is much more to life than just getting into IIT,
Yeah.
right? Because then the journey is, what are you doing in IIT? You're in the leading institution in the country. And there is technical prowess that you've built, right? The folks here are the best at physics, the quants. But how are you going to utilize that in the real world, right? Was the biggest question in my head. So I spent the first year actually introspecting and saying, okay, what is it that I want to do? Actually, this is not my first gig. I did a small in-plant training for 20 days at one of the automotive companies in Chennai, right? where effectively they had assembled parts. There were already machinery in place, and they were putting the parts together, and they told us how to maintain a ledger, right? So I came back and said, what's the point of this? I want to do something more. And I ended up emailing a prof. So I asked advice from my room neighbor, another IM guy, and he was the topper of our batch. His name is Hari Krishna. I was like, what do I do? He's like, there was a cool prof in first year. Why don't you mail him? Dropped in a mail saying, Prof, I want to do something with my life, and I want to work on technology that will impact the real world. I don't want it to be a research paper that doesn't see,
Light of the
light of day at all. Prof, within
And actually, in engineering, there is a lot of research which is required, but it can, in the moment, feel quite repetitive and boring. And
yes,
it's very rigor. Like for instance, you want to test a machine, you have to test it over many materials, over many times, and so on.
I agree.
It has to be done, but for an undergrad student, it might feel quite
Like, impatient.
underwhelming.
And yes, I agree. I think I fit in those category of students actually that did find it underwhelming. So I told Prof, I want to work on something real world. That's my criteria, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I can be the guy who builds your tech. So that is the mail. Within 20 minutes, this is Professor Krishnan Balasubramanian, who you've interviewed actually
Yes.
before.
Who has also taught me?
Who has also taught you? Oh, wow. Okay. So he within 20 minutes, he just said, come to my room. And I remember going to his room. There were a bunch of different PhD guys. He was dean of ICSR at that time. So he was signing documents, advising PhD students, and I'm just waiting. So I waited 2 hours. And then when they all left, he said, Pa, you're still here. And I said, yes, sir, I'm waiting. So then he asked, what do you want to do? Told him. And then he told me, come, I'll show you some piece of technology. So he took me upstairs to his lab. And there was this strip of a sensor, some metallic strip that was on a pipe. And he said there's this student named Tarun Mishra who has worked on this piece of technology. It's very novel. He's graduated. I want you to see what can be done to productize this. And interestingly enough, within the next few days, Tarun Mishra was visiting campus. So on behalf of one of the largest refineries in the world. So he comes down and he speaks about the need for this piece of technology across.
So Tarun worked on this in his Insti days, and then he left, joined somewhere else, and was visiting campus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, he got into Reliance at that time, and then he came back and said, I want to work on this piece of technology. I want you to work on it. The moment we met, the day one when we met, we saw that he understood the need because he was working in the industrial sector. I wanted to work on technology that could impact the industrial sector, so it all merged. I pinged my batchmate, Hari, saying, this is a wonderful opportunity. And he was in Raftar at that time, right? So he said, sign me up, man. And that's where the journey really started. You're one of the founders of C5, so you must know there's this guy named Karthik, who is one of the founders of Envisage, right? And he was considered one of these C5 gods, as we call them. We onboarded him to work on the electrical engineering part of things. That's where the journey started. You were asking how my Insti life panned out from there, right? We were doing multiple trials in companies like Reliance and companies across the Indian ecosystem. So I barely spent time in college, actually. From my second year onwards, I would coordinate with Tarun. We would bring in interns over here in the IITM ecosystem. A lot of them C5, actually. And from there, the rest is history, right? I spent most of second year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year, and increasing amounts of time not being in university. I was...
So I want to just get a sense of this. So your Insti years from first year onwards, or from second year?
Second year mainly, yeah.
Was split between Professor Krishnan Balasubramanian's lab and CFI, or maybe not in CFI, but with CFI folks.
Yes.
And in industry where you were trying to sort of see whether this technology fits somewhere or how to adapt it.
Precisely.
And maybe a little bit in class, because obviously you have to go to class.
We have,
did you have time for anything else? Did you have friends? Did you?
Hopefully, I think so. I met my wife over here. I did have spent time with friends, but I was also focused a lot on... I think IIT is an ecosystem where you can be who you want to be, right? So I was part of the inter-IIT team. We went across different IITs playing. I played table tennis. Okay. So we ended up winning gold actually a couple of times during my years. over here. And on top of that, I was also part of the choreo team as well from a cultural
That's
activity.
a very efficient use of your 5 years. You did a lot of work.
A lot. It was a lot, I would say. All credit to, in fact, one of my co-founders, Hari. He would make sure that I would actually study for the exams. But no, the most important thing, or the life-changing thing actually, was the amount of time I spent in the industrial ecosystem.
Okay.
Because for the first time, I would say, there was real exposure to students and idea on how these industrial environments are. You were in the industrial environment, so it is vastly different from what we're used to over here.
I have a question regarding that. Like, this is interesting that as a student, you were exposed to it.
Yeah.
Students on campus today, definitely in IIT Madras, maybe across India, but definitely in IIT Madras, come here thinking that they're going to build something, they're going to have a startup. The 100+ startups in IIT Madras in the last 1 year.
Yep.
So, the problems that they have access to is limited by
Yes.
what they are exposed to, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And industrial safety, industrial efficiency is very far from a
Yes.
second year, third year student's mind. It's, what they see is what they can solve for. How would you advise them on, I mean, I get where your personal journey is coming from, but a current student, how would you advise them to go about thinking of what problems to solve in their early years?
That's a great question.
Or should we come back to this later?
Sure, we can.
Yeah, let's go in the flow of your story. So you were in campus, you set up this company. When did your company get incorporated?
2016, my pre-final year.
Okay.
We incorporated. Also, because of a need, there were multiple inflection points. A lot of folks that were working, we had at one point like 45, 50 people within campus working on this piece of technology. We were not funded. We got some funding into IIT Madras from, let's say, Reliance to work on pieces of technology. But by then, 2016, we were working on sensor-based technology. We were like an innovation lab. Drone-based technology, drone as an acquisition device, and then analytics on visual and thermal data on that piece of technology. So there were like at least 15 different types of projects we were working on.
Interesting.
And we had great talent, like people that formed the computer vision group over here, formed the AI group over here in an IIT and C5 and multiple groups. So we didn't want the talent to leave. So 2016, we were like, okay, now it's make or break. People are graduating, right? And we all have, Tarun was 4-5 years experienced at that time in the industry. He had to make calls as well. And we also had to make calls. Are we going to sit for placements or not? 2016 was that fulcrum point where we said, no, there's something here. What we didn't know is it's a $90 billion target market for us. We did the math 3 years later. But in 2016, we knew it was a big market, right? And we had advisors from the IITM ecosystem at that time telling us, how do you build a company, right? The basics, the 101s. And we had inspiring leaders prior to us. Tarun Mehta, who recently did the IPO. We had Kedar from Hyperwords. There were a few stories. And we wanted to...
Kedar was just raised $1 million.
He had just raised $1 million at that time. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. So we said...
I also want to point out that in IIT Madras ecosystem, if you have the name like Tarun, then you're statistically higher likely to start up.
I agree.
And very all of Taruns. Yeah, if you are called Tarun, you should consider joining here.
Yeah. So 2016, we realized, so 2017, we needed to raise funds. And that's when the fundraising journey started.
Okay.
At which point, I would say Hari and me were still students at that time, but Karthik and Tarun had both graduated from the company.
From what you do now to when you started in 2016-17, has there been a lot of change, or can you take us through what you were doing in 2016-17 and the pivots that have happened to where you are now? Of course, there was a pandemic in the middle also, so I'm sure there's some interesting stories there.
There were multiple pivots, right? We were a hardware cum software technology player, right? We built patented hardwares and we built software layers to analyze the data from those patented hardwares, right? But what we understood was the industry started trusting us a lot. We were looked at as the innovation lab for the industrial ecosystem in India. There were BPCL, Adani, Vedanta, Aditya Birla, HPCL and Reliance, multiple of the large players working with us across the country, right? So what we understood was it became very important for us to understand where is the value, what is the value, and what can be outsourced. This became a big question to us because I think as inventors in IIT, you get very biased towards your technology that you built now, and less think about product market fit and other things, right? So I would say a lot of the mentors as well as the investors helped us in that journey.
That's not specific to IIT. If you're sitting in a lab, you're solving for problems that the lab gets.
I agree.
And then you get attached to that solution that you built.
Yeah.
And then you take the solution to the market and hope that the market has a problem.
Yes.
But if you're building a company, you should have started the other way.
Yeah. That's actually what we did. We spent so much time in the market throughout our college years that we understood all the needs. The solution can be optimized further, right? So number one, we did the hardware plus software play. I would say we did that up until 2018. Then 2019, we had collected so much data. We are the leading player in the world to collect visual data with regards to safety globally. Right now, we've collected more than 10,000 terabytes of information and trained it, right?
Nice.
We didn't realize that that's a moat at that time.
Right.
Even then, we realized, okay, this is automation and we can do this on our set of cameras and your set of cameras. Then,
Well, actually, I want to just point out here, I was working with Hyperverge for a while.
oh, okay.
And in Hyperverge, they were also building vision systems in the 2014, 15, 16, 17 period. And they also ended up collecting a lot of data through their own work or through their partners and labeling it
Yes.
and creating those data sets. And if you own the data sets, then obviously your training is much better.
Exactly.
And it's weird how your ability to sort of do a manually intensive work without feeling like, oh, this is too much work, I won't do it. But actually going and doing it can end up being a very strong moat.
Yeah. As I said, we knew it could be a moat among the 100 things we were doing. It didn't hit us as to how much of a moat
Okay.
it was at that time. It's talking retrospectively, right? Then 2020, the pandemic hit and nobody was allowed in facilities. So drone services out, sensor installation out, right? It was just bare bones in the ecosystem. Revenue took a hit and we, of course, had to understand, okay, who are we as a company? People were going through layoffs. As an organization, are we going to go through the same process? We actually took a call at that time that changed our trajectory of the company, right? When revenue was going down, we sat down and said, okay, what's our strategy? Our revenue is down. We don't know how long this is going to last. And then we said, we're not going to let go of a single person. All of these people have trusted and counted on the company. So we actually modified a lot of the roles within the company that were operational focused, trained them to be data scientists. And we said, we are going to be a hardware agnostic company and we'll just run these programs. We've already built a strong analytics layer. Let's just pivot completely to a AI SaaS company that works on existing infrastructure and provide insights to customers that are of multi-million-dollar value to each of them, right? And that pivot changed the trajectory of the organization.
Can I ask you a technical question here?
Please.
So if you are using the camera feed to do analytics, that camera feed is coming to a central location or is going to a cloud? Is it hosted on the...
It is a cloud-based. There is both a cloud-based as well as an on-premise version.
Can it be deployed on the camera itself?
Yes, we have edge-based deployments as well, but the level of complexity of the compute is much lower.
Right.
Right, because of hardware limitations. Hopefully that gets better.
As cameras can take more compute.
Yes, yeah. Given how much the market cap of NVIDIA and other folks is, we will eventually get there, is our belief. But as of now, you can run a few of the rules on the cameras itself, locally.
But that would mean that more remote, it can be applied at more remote locations.
Offshore locations, we have multiple offshore deployments across multiple oceans in the world, as well as even onshore where bandwidth and connectivity is a big problem. You can run it. But if you want to run something, OSHA, it's more than 1,000 rules. Like if I had to program all the rules, it can fill a full book, right? To run something that complex, you will have to utilize the cloud at this point of time.
Okay.
So we use a cloud-based system across.
Understood. So you were a hardware plus software company when you started?
Yes.
And then as the pandemic hit, you realized that it makes more sense to move to a software only company
Yeah.
and be hardware agnostic.
Agnostic, yes, precisely.
I guess that has also like sort of unlocked a lot of value for you. Like you can move faster.
Yeah.
At what point did you go from companies like Reliance, HPCL, Indian-based companies, to a global portfolio?
2019, 2020, same period of time.
Okay.
Our first international contract at that time was with Shell, and then we started scaling across, right? So I would say 2020 was our first international deployment in the United States, and then from there, again, the rest is history, right? We've scaled across multiple players across the Shell, and not just oil and gas, construction, international construction players, international paper manufacturing facilities, where it is surprising the amount of risk that exists in paper manufacturing facilities as well, and cross-industry, mining, steel, the like. 2020 was a pivotal moment again at that point of time, because now that you're hardware agnostic, the value of your solution can be seen not just by players in India, but players in Canada. So there were some companies where we didn't even have a face-to-face meeting, where we had deployed the technology. They had seen the value of the technology over a 1-month time period, and then scaled the technology up as well. So suddenly, from 2020 to now, we've gone from being, let's say, a 2-country deployment company to now we're deployed in more than 20 countries at this point.
That's
Globally.
cool. 2 questions. One remark about the way you mentioned paper.
Yeah.
Maybe consumers may or may not realize it, that something as delicate as paper, in a factory process, it goes through absolute torture. Those molecules have gone through hell
Yeah.
to turn from pulp
Exactly.
or a tree's cellulose to paper.
Yep. And there's dangerous equipment, right? There are these equipments called winders that actually wind after you smash, like, it winds the paper over there. Now, there are people that have got their arms stuck, chopped off, dislocated in these locations because they think the machine is stuck and they think the machine is off. And then they go and try to fix it, suddenly it switches on. And there are multiple incidents like that that happen.
I'm so happy that your technology is trying to prevent that.
It is actively preventing it. It's we have technology that can create red zones that can again integrate back to the machine and tell the machine there's a person in the vicinity in danger. You need to stop work.
Can you tell me a little bit about, you use the word OSHA. Can you tell me how OSHA has evolved over time? And also, I think I've seen on your website the word Industry 4.0.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious to know, I mean, I guess I have a broad idea what it means, but curious to know what is Industry 4.0, and
Sure.
the question comes to mind, what is 3.0 and is 2.0? Is there a 5.0?
Yeah, there seems to be one coming up, at least according to some of the books I've read recently. I'll answer the second question first then, on the Industry 4.0, and then come to OSHA. Some people say we're in a transition from 4.0 to 5.0, but for the most part, we're right now still in 4.0. Industry 1.0 was the first invention of the steam engine. Right at that time, which was, okay, you can have machinery perform activities faster than a human, right? Then Industry 2.0 was the Henry Ford era, which is what, the 1800s.
So Industry 1.0, we are building things like rail lines and
Correct.
large maybe machines for construction, things like that.
Yes. 2.0 is when you look at assembly line manufacturing, large scale manufacturing, and how do you impact consumers at scale, right? Which is when Henry Ford came into the picture. So that would, I would say, the 1800s. Then the next big leap of innovation took a while after that, which what people consider 3.0 is over the 1970s, where computers and digital started coming in, and automation came in, where you understood machines could perform repetitive tasks that you were having people do in these supply lines. And finally, most recently, over the last decade, or a little over the last decade, last 10 to 20 years, is where Industry 4.0 has come in, where you understood that you can create central layers. Devices can be IoT devices with the advent of the internet, machine learning, AI, and the like. And you can understand data, have machines talk to each other, have information from multiple machines come to a point for a central decision making, right? And that is a continuously evolving process right now. So today we are in the Industry 4.0 era, which is a massive, massive market. There are multiple
So in
companies.
each of these layers, industries have become more ambitious, larger. They're producing more goods at a faster speed, more efficient, more power efficient, more safer.
Yes.
right? And that's interesting. So then how has OSHA evolved?
Oh, yeah. So OSHA would have started, I would say, with the first set of incidents that ever happened across these supply chain lines, with a few rules saying, okay, you shouldn't put your hand in specific areas of machinery that you're operating. Today, OSHA is still evolving, right? The equipment you're building is safer and more efficient, but it comes out with new risks, right? And this continues to change with newer machinery that's brought into the market. So OSHA continues to evolve and upgrade. There's another body that works like OSHA, but in construction, called IOGP, right? So these bodies today, they are massive books of this side with thousands of rules, right, across. I would categorize it into 8 key categories, which includes PPE, work at height, line of fire, vehicle safety. There are multiple major categories, and under them there are hundreds of subcategories that come in. Right. So today, these are mature organizations. They do incident investigations across the world.
Okay.
And make the world a safer place, actually, through policy as
Nice.
well.
And so yeah, I think I've understood it. This is good. Let's focus on something else that you spoke about.
Sure.
Which is that you went from being a one country to country operations to a 20 country operation.
Yes.
It's a global space. You're catering to American companies. Some of them, of course, maybe 100 years old.
Yes.
How do you make the leap from an Indian company working with other Indian companies? Maybe Professor Krishnan may have known them for a while, or your co-founder would have worked in one of those companies. So you had your friends or friends of friends or friends of friends of friends, to working for a global companies, thousands of kilometers away. They don't know you. They're from a different culture. They work differently. How does that leap happen?
I think every entrepreneur reaches multiple inflection points in their journey, right? Where one decision is going to change things. For us, this was one of those decisions. That the first question was, are all of these problems just an Indian problem because of the number of unregulated activities that happen, or is this a global problem, right? I think our first case study of that came from one of our first partners. Similar to how I said we had initial partners in the industrial ecosystem in India, our first international partner was Shell, for that matter, through their office in Bangalore, right? And even them, they came and said, look, this is of value, we believe is of value globally, but there's only one way to find out. Test it, right? See the value on the ground. Have people on the ground say, I cannot live without this piece of technology, right? Or I cannot operate efficiently or safely. I feel better with this technology in place. Once that's there, then this is a very reputation-based market. Everyone speaks to everybody. People share learnings in keynotes and conferences. So the rest, organically, business will fuel itself, right?
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, some Halliburton safety manager will always be curious, what is Shell safety manager doing?
Exactly.
Or how are the safety incidents elsewhere? And
precisely. So there's this one person. His name is Shekhar Kirani. He's from Axel. Along with
one person, he's a very famous person.
very famous guy. Him and the second guy who told this to us was Ashok Junjunwala. So two very famous people actually came and told us, what are you doing here? Just book a ticket and fly out, figure the rest out later, right? To which we took a little bit of time, but then finally in 2019 booked a ticket, ended up in New York, which is the wrong place to be, for the industrial ecosystem.
Yeah, because the industries are in Texas.
Texas, Louisiana, Pittsburgh probably. Once we flew there and identified that, okay, the problem is a global problem, but the way you cater to that problem has to meet certain international standards. The level of delivery, implementation, support, perfection, and customer success as a concept has to be far more stringent in that region. And then, as I said, success fuels itself. So that became very important for us. So we actually have fully fledged entities in a lot of these regions between North America, the Middle East, and we operate through partners in Europe. And we have an entity in Singapore that takes care of the Southeast Asian region. Each of these entities ensure excellence in the region for us from an implementation and a process standpoint. And that becomes very important for students actually that are viewing this podcast. Is a lot of the value at scale becomes less about the technology because you figure the technology out, and becomes more about how are you driving excellence and value for your customer, including things like how you're communicating that value to your customer as well.
Very interesting. What you're saying is the technology scales globally. The local customer success and the way you engage with your customer may change from location to location, and you'll have to figure out how to scale it in your own way.
Precisely.
And you are running your operations from Chennai.
The operations, the technology is built out of Chennai. We of course have implementation teams that manage customers in every single part of the world that we're talking about. I'll tell you about our centers. We have, of course, Singapore. We have multiple centers in India, and we have Houston as our base for the overall the Americas, right? But as a technology, our customer support as well as the R&D and engineering and product, all of that is based out of Chennai.
That's amazing. I want to make a note here and just congratulate you on this. Normally in India, we say that Indian industry will buy your product if you're already selling in the US. Right?
Yeah.
And they sort of look for that validation. Oh, if you've sold to some factory in Texas, then I will implement it. But you have actually gone
Reverse.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Going
In fact,
against the flow.
the way we put it is, India for us is the biggest and toughest test bed in the world for our piece of technology, anything we aim to build, because tough customers, demanding customers, right? They break the product in multiple ways. Like you can strive towards perfection of the product and the delivery over there, and the price points are lower, right? You have to make sure it is scalable and cost effective. There is no alternative, right? The moment you take that out, the value is so high and the product is heavily tested that it's a beautiful model.
Very nice.
For us.
Can you give us an idea of your funding journey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say we went through multiple rounds. 2017, we did a 800K round at that time. Majorly angels, and I would say Axelor Ventures, which is Chris and Shibu's fund, seed stage fund, as well.
That's a deep tech focus fund.
That's a deep tech focus fund. Deep tech focus funds were coming up at that time, actually. It was good timing. We also had Bharat Innovation Fund, which was another deep tech focus fund. But then we had one of the larger players, Elevation, come in 2018. That was a $3.3 million round. Then post that, our next round was in 2021, which was Axel, which was close to about Axel, Elevation, and I think the first infusion of funds from Shell Ventures as well, close to about $9 million. And
it must feel quite good to have a customer
absolutely
come in and say, we'll invest in you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a huge validation.
Massive. One of the best gold standard players in the world coming and saying, not only do we want you to add value to our sites, but we believe in your journey and we want a piece of the cake, is absolute validation for the technology, the vision and the mission. Very recently in Shell specifically, we won what's called the CEO Award, which is an award, a CEO Award for Goal Zero, which is one of the awards given for technologies that have scaled the most on their Goal Zero journey, which is zero incidents in their facilities. So that was another big win. But to continue on your point, funding round, then in 2022, we did another $25 million between Process, Axel, Elevation, and of course, Shell Ventures, and Bharat Fund and Axelor continue to invest. Also, another player that's invested from day one, 2017, all the way till now, is also a IIT grad, Blue Hill Ventures.
Manu Iyer.
Yeah.
This is damn cool. I want to sort of talk about a few things here and there, which I think we've missed out.
Sure.
We spoke about your origin story. We spoke about how you entered this field. And there was a point where we were talking about on how students looking to start up, or young, let's just say young people looking to start up, who don't have a large experience, they have to pick a problem they want to spend 5-10 years with, maybe 20 years with. How do they seek problems that is sort of outside their limited zone?
Yeah, that's a great question. It has to come from within, firstly, because that was the same, like, I'll tell you what, Detect wouldn't have existed if we didn't go out looking for problem statements, right? So I think initiative, number one. Number two, there are many levers in the ecosystem that can fuel that initiative, right? I think we didn't have this. This was again started by Professor Krishnan, the Gopal Krishna Deshpande
GDC, yeah.
GDC, the initiative over there. It didn't exist in our time. In fact, one of the reasons that came up was because we believed that, okay, we got exposure. Everyone needs to get exposure. So something like this needs to be formed was how Krishnan sir also was thinking about doing this. But I think there is also a great mentorship ecosystem within IIT. There are folks in IIT incubation cell and mentor programs that we used to spend a lot of time just going to the IITM IC just to take advice from folks like Jun. And then other mentors from the ecosystem. And there was another person very impactful in our journey, which is a person named Gopal. He was the previous MD at Sunmark Emplast, IITM grad. And he started with, okay, you need to stop being a student, you need to understand finances, use cases, how do you bring ROI, right? That was the first evolution to a third-year student on how do we do this. So I think leveraging your seniors, your IITM network is extremely important. Spending time, the moment you think of a use case, let's say it's a B2B, B2C, okay, you can meet customers. B2B, the only way is actually to go observe how their facilities operate, observe how their sites operate. And I think the alumni ecosystem is the best way.
Sure.
that
So
we can
basically,
leverage.
you are saying put yourself out there,
Absolutely.
leverage your ecosystem, and use your whoever you have access to be exposed to a larger problem set. But I want to ask you a question about that. You sent one mail, and the prof replied. I mean, amazing. Okay. Now, a student today, maybe he sends 15 emails, contacts 15 people, gets 15 problems. Because like, IIT Madras is like getting a lot of problems for everyone, right? So there's so many things that people are working on, and so many. As a student, how do you parse? Like, should I spend time on this? Should I spend time on that? Will this be interesting to me for a long time? Will I be able to create value? You get what I'm saying? Like, it maybe I feel sometimes that it's a problem of plenty.
Yeah. I would say two things to that. One is, of course, I sent one mail to Krishnan. Before that, before I had the chat with Hari, I had sent a mail to like some 15 different profs who ignored me. But I would say it's also another thing. One common trait you will see in all of the founders that we met even at the recent event at Sangam is there is a problem of plenty. But the ones who survive are not the ones who are actually successful initially. It was all the folks that were obsessed. The one common thing about founders is, of course, obsession with some sense of okay, there is value. But I can tell you there were multiple times in our own journey where folks came and told us, this is too complex an environment for you guys to innovate in. You guys are not going to make it. You're too young.
20-year-olds
Yeah.
in a large.
Where decision makers are 50 and above. Right? So to many folks, it was illogical. What Taran Mehta was doing at that point of time was just too ambitious, right? So the common trait across most founders that make it eventually is just sheer obsession with the problem statement and clear visibility that there's value to be unlocked. And they figure out a way. So you are going to get knocked down tons of times. We got knocked down tons of times. It was not easy, but eventually that grit in the individual there's no hack, there's no easy. If it was easy, everyone would have multi-billion-dollar startups at this time.
As you say, I'm thinking for every Professor Krishnan Balasubramanian who gave you a lot of encouragement, there must have been 100 other people who would have said this doesn't work, don't do this, why are you wasting your time? And you're saying that it requires a level of obsession to stay on path.
Yes, it's a 1:200 ratio, according to me. For every one person, there are more than 200 people that will tell you, not going to work, take the safe route, do well. I'll give you including friends and family, right?
Yeah, I'm sure some of your clients would have just come and said, early clients, why don't you just join us, or?
Yeah. And I think the general path at that point of time in Insti was, hey, do consult a couple of years, get into investment, then do your MBA, right? Which is a laid out path for folks. Of course, very difficult to get into. You still need to be.
And we are very thankful that they do, because we need investors.
Extremely thankful. But as I said, the ones who make it are the ones who are obsessed with the problem statement. What also helped, let's say in detect scenario, Here now I'm going to shift it to personally on us, is the co-founders were very strong and extremely complementary. So as a result, whenever one was unsure, you had 3 other people to come in and provide clarity, build confidence, and pick up the slack, right? So that dynamic was very, very important for us. I would even say outside of the obsession, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have each other to hold each other up.
So I'm taking back 4 words: initiative, ecosystem, obsession, and co-founders.
Yes.
And on that ecosystem part, and maybe we can just spend 5 minutes on that. Sorry, I know you've already answered it, but let's put it together.
Take it.
How has the IIT Madras ecosystem helped you?
Tremendously. I think starting from day one, access to the lab, right? Lab infrastructure, that is, of course, we work in Professor Krishnan's lab at the time, and it's one of the most cutting edge research facilities in the world, in fact, competes globally. So that
This
number,
is the Center for
non-destructive evaluation,
CNDE.
CNDE, fantastic center. We had access to a lot of industrial problem statements as a result. And then in the next phase became the mentorship from seniors. I would say just the fact that you have talent over here that you would struggle to find in the open market, right? And the best minds across departments exist over here. Then the fourth is going to be the incubation ecosystem. I think from an incubation perspective, probably one of the best in the country, right? So the access to mentors, I think we had the previous vice chairman of the Murugappa group who would come in, spend half an hour actually, just giving us yarn exposure and say, if you're worth it, go visit our facility in Coromandel, right? And he would set up meetings as a result. So the incubation facilities also were great. And the fact that you have talent of C5 where people are itching to do work, right? Who are itching and want to create value desperately. And these are smart minds trying to do that. I think all of this put together is a recipe. In fact, Jun puts it extremely well, Ashok sir. He puts it well. He says, here in this ecosystem, we have technology, we have professors, we have industrial specialists. But our X factor is students who don't know that something can't be done, right? It requires that foolhardiness. And that's what we all represent.
Nice. I'm going to quote that.
Yeah.
I don't know that something can't be done. Very cool, Daniel. This is amazing. We are at the hour, so we've spent a lot talking about your company. Congratulations on the growth you've had. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, and I hope that you've been a little stealth throughout. So I think a lot more people will be aware of the scale and the impact that you've had up to now. So I'm really looking forward to that. You're also married to an IIT batchmate.
Yes.
So, congratulations. That's something more that IIT has given you.
Yeah. IIT is English. So my father is from here. My wife is from here. I'm from here. So yeah, it's very close to my heart.
Nice. Let's close on that note. Thank you so much for coming in. Any ending thoughts?
Oh, no, it was definitely a pleasure to finally meet you, Amrut, because when I met you in Sangam, to be introduced to someone who is the first mind for CFI, it's because of folks like you that we are able to do what we do.
I wouldn't say that. CFI as a setup started in 2000. The work started in 2007. I was a student then. I definitely was part of the team that was leading the effort to put up CFI.
Yeah.
I graduated 1 month before CFI was actually founded.
Oh, wow.
So I graduated in June, and July was the setup. And of course, right from the word go, CFI has been blessed. The principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister inaugurated it.
Yeah.
I did come down for the inauguration. And after that, we've had a series of successive heads who have done really good work. Some of whom, the first head was, I think, Ravikant.
Yeah.
And then there was Ravi Teja, and lots of people who have gone on to do really good things. Of course, Swapnil and Tarun were very active in CFI at one point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what stars aligned for us.
Yeah, you're being super humble, but it really set up the ecosystem for us, people like us, to exist, right? Or otherwise, it would have been, I'll tell you what, at one point, we were a student run like 40, 50 interns, right? like almost all of them were folks just sitting here working on, maybe not here, but in the old
Previous
C5.
old CFI. This is the new building of CFI.
C5, yeah, who were just working on different robotics equipment over there. Though that was the talent that built us up, and the stories goes the same for many of us.
Vancouver, Jather, all of them.
Same.
Okay, this was great. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for listening in. Please like, share, and subscribe, and drop a comment if you like the video. Thank you.